with us. Having a little bit of technical problems today, so the only way to follow us over the internet today is going to be through Facebook. Hopefully next week we're back to our YouTube and our Twitter accounts as well, so another two ways for the people online to follow us. And today we're going to be having a very special lecture by our friend Joyce called "Does Happiness Exist?" And we all hope that it does. So hope she's going to bring us like good, positive information today about the subject. But as always, before we do our lecture, we are going to do our initial prayer and our initial reading. And today we're going to be reading by the book Happy Life by Divaldo Pereira Franco by the Spirit of Joana de Angelis. You have a book more to the ancient Joyce?
I didn't open that.
When one really forgives, one forgets the evil received. If you forgive, but continue referring to the event, you are giving life to it. Work on the feelings of personal inferiority that suffering has fixed in your memory and be thankful for the opportunity to forgive. How could you evolve without tests that result in moral improvement? The forgiveness that you now give will be your protector tomorrow when you yourself need another's benevolence and forgiveness. Forgiving is always better for the one who practices it. Always act this way and you will live. So let us all now here connect our thoughts and our hearts with God, our Creator, with the Jesus, our Master, with the good spirits here present at TSS, our mentors, thanking them for all the light that shines over us, and ask them to enlighten us all through this lecture. Most of all, to enlighten our friend Joyce, so she can bring to us all your teachings, so we can learn a little bit more of the Gospels that you brought to us through your Son, our Master Jesus. And so be it. All right, Joyce is on that.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's very nice to have you all here. And it's very nice to be here as well. We had this renovation that happened in our house, and unfortunately we couldn't open the doors last Sunday, but we are happy to be back to service in our regular schedule. And it's always nice to see all of you here and to see you through the internet as well. So as Teresa said, today we're going to talk about happiness and how we understand what happiness means, and especially bring also the concepts and the view from Spiritism to understand if the happiness really exists, if we can find that happiness, and how we can make this happen. So when we start to think about happiness, the first question that I want to bring to you all is, what do you understand about happiness? When you think of yourself, what makes you feel happy? And there's many ways to see this, right? And sometimes it's simple to look in our daily lives and see, for example, when you want something, like you pursue, you are working hard to reach something, and you finally get it. Let's say your first house. Everybody, most of people have that dream to get, like, to grow up and work and be able to buy the first house. And when you are finally able to get it, I'm sure each of us feel that feeling of happiness, right? It gives us that, oh my God, I got it. I was able to get it, and I feel so happy today. And probably for a moment, you're gonna feel maybe the happiest person in the world because you got it. But then I ask you how long that feeling or that happiness feeling last for you? Usually can be a day, can be a couple of days, maybe a couple of months. And then basically your life will go back to the routine, right? And that feeling of happiness kind of disappear in some way because it becomes a routine. Your house is there, and I mean, it's just one more thing on your life. So what I'm trying to say is that that feeling is temporarily, right? It's the same when you dream to have a specific car and then you finally buy it, or you win the lottery, even something bigger. Probably, I mean, I don't have that experience. Maybe none of us here have it, but some people in the world have the experience of winning the lottery. And probably when they do, I'm pretty sure that at least for a moment, they feel the happiest people. How long that lasts? Even something so big like winning the lottery, I can guarantee you that is very, like, it's short. It's a short duration of happiness. And the mainly why? Because that happiness is linked to material things, right? So basically, that will be the topic, kind of the idea that I'm going to discuss today in our time here. Is that the material things, yes, can give us some level of happiness, but usually that is not a long-lasting happiness because it's material, and everything that is material, there is a start and there is an end, right? It's just temporarily. The other side, you can tell, well, that's the same thing with sadness, and that's true. Thank God, right? I mean, you are not sad forever. Also, when something happens in our lives that brings us sadness, usually that is temporary too, because then another day starts, and then we start to see things in another perspective. So the feelings in general, when they are connected to material things or to things or to events that happen in our life, they tend to be temporarily. So then that brings us again to me, what do you think is happiness? So for some people, will tell me happiness is to be healthy. So I can only be happy if I have health and if I can do my stuff, like I can work, I can be functional. So that is what brings me happy. But then if you go and talk to someone who was born with a chronic disease, that person was already born with some level of disability or disease or in some way that compromised her daily, like her or his daily life. So if you ask that person, what is happiness? He's gonna have a very different understanding of happiness. So maybe happiness for him depends on the disability or the disease, will be if they stay a week out of the hospital. That's gonna be happiness for him, for her, right? Totally different than for some of us that is already healthy and rarely go to the hospital. So the same way, if you ask, what is happiness for any of us here, that I consider all of us here very, regardless what is our situation financially, just by the fact that we are here living in this country that's full of opportunities and consider a rich country, I find that all of us here are very privileged compared to the world population. So if you ask any of us here, what is happiness? It's going to be a completely concept and perspective if you ask to someone in Africa that does not even know what is internet, what is TV, what is all this technology that is just easily accessible to all of us here in Canada. Those people there that barely has water every day, they have a totally different concept of happiness. So it's very nice when you start to reflect on that and see those perspectives. And it's interesting enough that sometimes we that have so much, when we see those people, we cannot understand. And at least me, I question myself sometimes. How come we see those videos? I've never been in Africa, for example. but I've seen videos of those community having party and singing and dancing and show such a level of happiness that sometimes I ask, how come those people are happy? They barely have some clothes to put it on. They are bare feet every day. They have like, I'm not saying that they have the minimum to live, but in my mind they have like pretty much nothing compared to what I have. So sometimes I even ask myself, how come they are smiling like that? They are waking up, showing that happiness, and I'm here waking up and sometimes complaining or sometimes in a depressive mode and sometimes like not able to see the light. And those people easily like totally different lives than me, like a lot less opportunity and less things. How come they have? We ask that, right? And like one day I was talking to my mom and she was a little bit down and low and uh, and we were seeing something on the TV. One of those documentary was a person, a guy with lots of disability, like in a wheelchair, like lots of limitations. I don't remember the circumstance if he was born like that or if he got that condition through life. But basically, this guy was one of those guys that gives lots of talks and coach people and using his example. And he was very happy. And my mom mentioned to me, how, and she was actually feeling guilt at the time, exactly the same thing. How come he's happy? Like, what? Look at the life that he has. Like, pretty much, like, full of limitation, depends on other people every day to do minimum things. How come he's happy? So, this is the kind of reflection that I want you all to go over today to kind of understand uh, what the meaning of life, understand what we have, and maybe at the end of the talk today, we can be more grateful for the life we have, and maybe we can try to find this happiness that we all look for. But we also gonna understand that the perfect happiness that we all dream for, they don't really exist in our life, in our actual situation. But there is a level of happiness that yes, we can reach. And yes, we should work to reach them. And we're gonna understand what is exactly that happiness. So basically that happiness will only come to you when we are able to evolve enough to not only understand the laws of God, but to be able to have those laws inside your heart that will give you understanding, resilience, being able to accept more the circumstances, the challenges, and be able actually to see all the challenges and barriers that we have in life as opportunities to grow. Once we change our perspective uh, of everything around us, that's the first step to be closer to the happiness that we are able to achieve. So basically, and that's the reflection we go through, and I'm going to use the Spirit's book and some passage of the Gospel to help us kind of go deeper in those concepts. So again, if we probably do like a research in our society today, I can guarantee and go out on the street and start to ask people what is happiness and what they need to be happy. I can guarantee that most of people probably will say something that is related to material things. Like, I'll be happy if I had this work, I'll be happy if I had this type of income, I'll be happy if I win the lottery, I'll be happy. Like, in some way, it'll be all connected. Will be probably very few people that will try to look more in moral aspects of growing to be happy, but will be mainly probably related to the material things. And that makes sense, consider the level of evolution that we are all. That's why we live in this world still of trial and expiation, right? But at the same time, if a simple way to prove that that concept is wrong is just by looking in our society. When we see the richest countries, like the wealthy countries, like Japan, for example, that is one of the countries that is like the income and the economic situation is one of the best, is one of the countries that the incidence of depression and suicide is the highest. So that kind of contradicts, right? That idea or concept that happiness can only be achieved if you have money, if you have material things. So here in Canada, the same way, the incidence of depression and suicide is pretty high for a country that pretty much has everything, right? And I mean, like compared to other developing countries. So, and I can tell you, I'm pretty sure, I don't know numbers, but if you go to those poor countries in Africa, the incidence of depression are pretty low there. I guess because they cannot even have this chance to be depressive because they barely has the minimum, right? So they cannot think in having a psychiatrist or some kind of therapy. So they cannot think on being depressive, pretty much. But basically that's the idea. They see the world in a different way. So another point that happiness is not connected to the material aspect of life. So we're going to start with the Spirit's book, question 920. It asks, can human beings enjoy perfect happiness on earth? So very interesting questions, right? That's totally linked to what I'm starting to discuss here. So Kardec asked that questions, and the Spirit's answer, no, because corporeal life has been appointed to them either as a trial or as an atonement. People must reduce their misfortunes themselves and make their lives as happy as possible while on earth. So in other words, the spirits are telling us, no, you cannot enjoy the perfect happiness on earth, on the planet Earth. We are not there yet. But in the other side, we need to learn and try our best every day to evolve, because that's the only way for us to reduce our misfortunes, the challenges of our life, and pretty much try to pursue a happiness that we can reach in our level of evolution. And then the following question 921, they ask, do we understand that human beings will be happy on earth when the human race has been transformed? Makes sense, right? Meanwhile, can people ensure a moderate amount of happiness for themselves? Then the spirits answer, human beings are often the architect of their own happiness. If they obey God's law, they spare themselves much sorrow and also secure all the happiness corresponding with the human condition. And that's exactly what I started to tell you at the beginning. That pretty much to achieve the happiness that we can in this life, the first step is try to understand God's law and try not to fight against it. Because the God's law will always be present in every single circumstance. And that's why God is perfect. Otherwise, God wouldn't be God, right? So the only way for that to happen is that the God's law needs to apply in every situation. So there is no injustice. We are not victims in any circumstance. Anything that is happening in our life is happening due to a reason. There's a purpose behind it. And either because of things that happen in this spirit life or things that we carry from previous existences, previous experiences. And still, the justice will apply in any circumstances. So if you are not able to correct previously, we're going to face that challenge again. And we're going to need to be able to correct it. Otherwise, we will never be able to evolve and to get that level of happiness. So when we start to understand that God's law is for everyone, and we start to bring those laws to our heart, and basically one sentence that kind of summarize All the laws of God is just that main principle that Jesus taught us, right? Love one another like you love yourself. If you are able to truly apply this law to everything we do, I can guarantee you that we are able to decrease a lot all the sorrows and misfortunes we face, and we are able to finally get closer to that happiness that is for us in this life. But yes, we are always still a little bit far from really be able to apply this law in many circumstances because we are still driven by our selfishness, right? So this is the work in progress that we are kind of fighting every day. And the fact that we are here, open ourselves to some learning, some teaching, and open ourselves to get books and learn and kind of trying to go through that process of transformation, then is definitely the first step. So I think we need also to understand and forgive ourselves um, for many of our mistakes because we are not perfect yet. So we need also to take care of ourselves in that perspective, understand that we are still child of God in this process, because at the same time, when we start to learn all this and we start only to feel guilt for not being able sometimes to follow the laws of God and to get to this point, this will not also not help us, right? We're just going to waste a big energy feeling guilt, and that probably it might lead us even more to a depression mode. Actually, we need to see ourselves, being able to forgive ourselves, and actually be grateful for this opportunity to learn more, knowing that every day we have a new chance to restart, a new opportunity to transform ourselves. So, and that's why we are here for. Okay? So basically, that's what the Spirit is telling us, that once we start to understand the God's laws, we're going to be able to kind of find the happiness corresponding with our human condition in planet Earth. The comment of that question also clarify all that I'm telling you here. It says, people who are positive about their future destinies view their physical life as a temporary station. So we start to understand that no matter what I'm facing now, it's temporary. The sorrows, the difficulties, the challenges, this will also pass because life is eternal. This current existence is just a tiny chapter in my whole journey. So this is a huge consolation for us and a motivation for us to keep working. Try your best every day because what you are facing now will pass. It is for them a momentary stopover at an awful hotel. They easily find solace for the fleeting frustrations of the journey in the fact that it is bringing them to a new and happier position, which will be all the more favorable in proportion to the preparations they have made. So this is also a call for us, saying, if you feel that your life is full of challenges at the moment and it's very hard to bear with it, having in mind that you are now preparing your future. We cannot change the past. So that's why we are facing these challenges now, because our past actions. But yes, you can change the future. So you have the option and the free will right now to just see yourself as a victim and enter in that mode of questioning and like a rebellious mode of questioning everything you're going through, or maybe looking into all those problems as an opportunity to change yourself and prepare yourself for a better life. Okay, I cannot be super happy in this life, but I can be in the next one. And it will 100% depends on what I'm doing now, on how I'm using the opportunities I have right now. So in this life, we are punished for violating the laws of corporeal existence via the suffering that is a consequence of these violations, and by the suffering that results from our own excesses. When we trace human troubles back to their origins, we find that the overwhelming majority are the result of an initial deviation from the right path. And that's for sure. Everything that you are facing now, that you feel that is difficult and challenging, it's a result of a moment in your life that you deviated off the right path and you need to correct. That's the law of justice, right? So this deviation forces us to enter a wrong path, and each subsequent step brings us more deeply into misfortune. Unless you stop right now and say, okay, I'm the I'm the actor of my future. I'm the one that's going to choose what I'm going to be tomorrow. So I can stop this sequence of these events right now and make it different for tomorrow. So in the question 922, they asked, earthly happiness is relative to each person's position. And that's exactly what I mentioned before by asking, like, what is happiness for us here? What is happiness for a poor person in a very poor country? They're going to have very different perspective, right? So basically, that's what it means here. Earthly happiness is relatively to each person's position. So that what suffices for the happiness for one can be the cause of misfortune for another. Is there a common standard of happiness for everyone? That was the question, and the Spirit said, with regard to material life, it is the possession of what is necessary for survival. With regard to moral life, it is the possession of a good conscience and the belief in a future life. So that's why the concepts of happiness change for everyone. Many people will connect the happiness just to the material aspect. And as it says here, that will come, the happiness, it will be related to the possession of what is necessary for survival. So what is necessary for survival for me will be totally different from what is necessary for survival for someone in a very poor condition. They will say that they just need to be with friends and family and they are happy. Other people say, no, I need a work, I need a house, I need a car. I will be only happy if I have this. So that really depends on your condition and how you see life, right? But very few look into the moral aspect, that it says that the happiness is connected to having a good conscience and the belief in a future life. If you connect your level of happiness to this moral aspect and this idea, there is a lot more chances for you to reach the level of happiness that you can in this life. Because even though you are facing a terrible moment in your life, you have the understanding and the concept really in you about the future life, about the you yourself as an immortal human being, and whatever you are facing now is temporarily, and that is going to change because you know that the next day will come always. So that will kind of relieve a little bit the pain you are facing now and make you see everything with different eyes. So the question 923, it asks, is it true that luxury for one becomes a necessity for another and vice versa, depending on circumstantial differences? Exactly the same idea that I discussed it already. And the Spirit's answer, yes. According to your material ideas, prejudices, ambitions, and all the absurd notions that you gradually shed as you come to understand the truth of things. So basically, like all those concepts is embedded on you and will help you to kind of having your own concept of happiness, right? That's why for like it differs from people to people. And then they continue. Obviously, people who once earned an income of 50,000 consider themselves very unfortunate when that income is reduced to 10,000. In this case, they perceive themselves to be less impressive to others since they can no longer maintain their status, keeping good horses, employees, and gratify all their tastes and passions. For them, this deprivation represents a lack of the very necessities of life. However, I can tell you, for someone who is unemployed for years and years, that is struggling in life a lot, If you tell them, yes, I employ you now for those $10,000, he will feel the happiest person in life at this moment. However, should we pity them while so many others are dying of cold and starvation and do not even have a warm place to sleep at night? Those who are wise compare themselves to what is below them, never to what is above, unless it is to raise their soul to the infinite. And it's very, very interesting, this concept at the end here, because that's another point that I want to bring today. If you are always comparing yourself to someone that is higher than you, at least in our eyes, because we still have very materialistic eyes, you'll never be happy. Because you always gonna see the grass of the neighbor greener than yours. Always, right? So if you always compare, like you reach certain position and then you look in your neighbor, oh, but he's even higher than you. And then all of a sudden the happiness that you felt when you were promoted in your work will disappear, because now you're gonna have that idea, no, but I'm only gonna be happy if I get that. And then you're gonna look around and you're always gonna see someone higher. So if you always mirror yourself in those people, it's impossible, right? And that is mainly driven by our selfishness and jealousy. And that is inside all of us. So this is a call for us to really reflect on ourselves, reflect on how we see life, what are my goals, and what I ask. Even in my prayers, what am I asking to God? Because we need to be careful with that too. What we ask every day, right? So try to see if it makes sense. All you are fighting for, all you are struggling for, does that really make sense? Does that really something positive for you, your family, for your growing, for you as a Christian human being in this society? Because if it's something that only gonna benefit only and exclusively you and your ego, maybe something that we need to reflect if it really makes sense or not, right? And on the other hand, if we start to turn our view and our perspective for those who has less than us, we're gonna see ourselves so much better, and you're gonna increase a lot the level of gratitude that we have in life. And it's interesting because I kind of did this exercise with myself to help me go through a very difficult moment in my life. And I still do. Every day I try to remember that. So my son had a very difficult moment when he was 3 years old. He was diagnosed with a severe type of epilepsy, and it was a moment that we really thought that we were going to lose him. And I remember me in the hospital crying and really think, like, even questioning God, right? Why this is going? Why am I going through this? Why I don't have, like, look, other kids in this again. It comes our selfishness and our jealousy, right? Looking into friends that has healthy kids and why I'm not one of them? Why, no, those kind of ideas that just lead us downhill, right? And I'm an anesthesiologist, and I do pediatric anesthesia. And I was every day, and I thank God for those moments, because I was every day dealing with kids a lot worse than my son, with families that was struggling a lot more than I was, either because they didn't have the same financial opportunities that I had to offer to my son, or because their kids just have a disease that was a lot more severe than mine. So by having that comparison, stopping comparing and looking into the very healthy kids, and look that there are people always worse than you, that kind of change our perspective completely and make us that moment that we say, oh God, sorry, because actually I shouldn't go through this mode. I need to change the way I look into it, and actually be grateful for everything I have. Because then we start also to go into that reflection. If this is happening to me, It's because I need to go through this. And thank God I have all the opportunities. Like look in the positive things behind that moment of pain and difficulty. Because there's always positive things around. But we always have the choice to compare ourselves to what our eyes see as better. And that will definitely make us go very, very far away from that happiness. You're not really like able to find happiness anywhere if you always kind of see us comparing us to the higher standard in our eyes, right? And the next question, 926, it asks, does civilization, by creating new ones, become the source of new affliction? And then the spirits answer, the problems of your world are proportional to the artificial ones that you create for yourselves. People who are able to set limits on their desires and see what is above them without feeling envy spare themselves many disappointments. The richest person is the one with the fewest needs. And here comes again the concept of richness, right? What is exactly being rich? Is that really being material things, being more, having more money, or is really those ones that really need, like, can find happiness with the minimum thing, right? And probably those are, not probably, for sure, those are the ones that are truly happy. We see on the news every day about all the celebrities, right? That either commit suicide or struggle with depression. All the people that has like everything, we look at them, how come those people like are not happy? But we understand that being materially rich in our society is actually one of the biggest trials that we can face, because it comes with lots of things around. It comes with many not so good feeling, and will connect you to many people around you that might not be really interested in your happiness and in your growing, right? Because of all that willing of power and money, you're going to be actually embedded on all that environment. That's going to make it very difficult for you really to even make a good use of the money you have, right? So that make us think about, oh, maybe that makes sense, that is not what's going to bring happiness to anyone. And the question 933, they ask, people are often the architect of their own physical suffering. Are they the architect of their moral suffering as well? And then the Spirit says, even more so, because material suffering is sometimes independent of their will. However, wounded pride, disappointed ambitions, the anxieties of greed, envy, jealousy, and all the passions are the torments of the soul. So they are basically all a result of our own actions, of our own choices. Envy and jealousy, blessed are those who do not know these two worms. Where envy and jealousy exist, there can be no calm or tranquility. These passions torment anyone who is a slave to them, even in their sleep, because you are connected with that energy, and for sure, during your sleep, you're all going to find spiritual friends or spiritual beings that are connected to that same energy. The envious and the jealous are always agitated. Is such a state desirable? Do you not understand that you create the most terrible tortures with such passions, and that earth then truly becomes a hell for you? So this is something that you need to reflect. Because all of us here, my friends, all of us has some level of envy and jealousy. And we'll be lying to ourselves if we say, no, I don't have that. Because we do. And when we face challenges and we struggle is when that is more like those vices are more intense on us. Like I said, when I faced the challenge with my son, I saw myself envy because of people who had healthy kids. Shouldn't be like that, right? But that's how we are. And that's the position we are. And we need to be able to recognize that. Because we can only transform when first we start to know ourselves and understand all the vices that we still carry on. If you don't reflect on that, you'll not be able to change it or to start this process of transformation, right? And the last one question that I want to go over here is the question 937. It says, is the disappointment that leads to ingratitude and the fragility of friendship another source of bitterness for the human heart? Because that's another thing also that makes people unhappy, right? When they face ingratitude, when they try to do something from someone and you don't get the same thing back. So the spirits answer, yes, but we teach you to feel pity for the ungrateful and faithless friend as they are more unhappy than you. So remember that every time you do something to someone with a good intention and like because you love and care, don't expect to get anything back when the situation turns and you are the one in it. Because actually, if you don't get back what you want, we should actually feel sorrow more for the person that is not retributing and not yourself because you did it right. You did what you was supposed to. I see many times people that feel themselves guilty and dumb because, oh, in that moment, I did so and so for that person. I was so good to them. I was dumb because now I need them and they don't even care about me. No, I'll tell you, the dumb person here is the person that is not retributing. They are the ones that we should dedicate some time to pray because they are the ones that are not seeing the laws of God in them. You did what your heart asked you to do. So never feel bad or guilty or for something good that you've done. That should be the first step. So the spirits continue here. Ingratitude comes from selfishness, and people who are selfish eventually meet hearts as callous as their own. Think of all those who have done more good than you, who are more worthy than you, and whose kindness were paid with ingratitude. And what is the best example that we can get from that? The best example that we get from that is actually Jesus. Can you imagine someone that did everything for the society at the moment, for us, because probably we were at some point incarnated at that moment, and how we paid back, and how Jesus felt at the end. At the end, obviously, we can't compare ourselves to Jesus. He's highly evolved, and we are far away from that level. But we need to see his example and be inspired by it, and understand that that's the way we should pursue every day. He never looked into us as ungrateful kids at the moment. He never asked God to punish us for not being grateful to him and recognize all that he had done for us, right? In the other way, he actually prayed to all of us and asked God to help all of us because we didn't know what we were doing at the moment. And the same situation still applies nowadays in different perspective, in different proportion, but that's exactly what happened. So when you face an ingratitude action to yourself, remember that and actually pray for that person because they don't know what they are doing. So, and the spirits did exactly that comparison here in this answer. They said, remember that in his life, Jesus was ridiculed, despised, and treated as both a criminal and a fraud. You should not be shocked if you are treated in the same way. The knowledge that you have done good should be your reward in your present life. And do not worry about what people who have benefited from it say. Gratitude tests your persistence in doing good. So Actually, every time you face an ingratitude toward you, it's a big task to see, were you able to continue to do that good to others? If you pass that task, that's a big step for you. Because then you understand that I'm doing good not to receive back. I'm doing good because I'm a good person and that's what I should do. And for sure, that will help you to develop, because that's exactly what we do with our kids, right? Those who has kids, like we don't do expecting something back, although yes, unconsciously we are always expecting something back, but we are able with our kids to persist in doing good because we have a type of love and connection that we still are not able to translate to everybody, right? But that's the exercise that we need to do. So they continue here. It counts in your favor in the future, and those who have ignored your kindness will be punished. The greater their ingratitude, the more severe the atonement. So they will face the consequences of that. Because the justice and the laws of God, as I said, applies to everybody. So you don't need to try to be the judge here and punish that person. Life will punish that by itself. Because everything that she or he is doing is going to have a consequence. We, as a person that have the opportunity to reflect on this, to learn more, to understand more about the meaning of life, to see ourselves as a child that is growing and evolving every day, to understand more about the teachings from Jesus, we are the ones that should try every day to do better. Because as I tell, we change only ourselves. We are not here to change the others. And the way we're gonna get closer to that happiness that we aim for is by understanding that I'm here to change myself. So I'm the one responsible to myself. I cannot be even responsible to my kid. So he's gonna have his journey too. He has his free will to go through that. I can only give advices, but I'm here to change myself, and that's the goal, right? So in the gospel, I'll not go through that passage here, but in the chapter 5 that mentions the justice of affliction, also goes through this concept about understanding that the pain and sorrows that you have in life, there's a meaning behind it. And once we are able to change our perspective through that, we are able to understand better the situation and put ourselves in a better position, transforming ourselves every day and understand everything as an opportunity to grow. That will lead us closer to that happiness we aim for. So they concluded that in that passage, they say, so then, blessed are the afflicted, may be translated in the following manner. Blessed are those who have occasions to prove their faith, firmness, perseverance, and submission to the will of God, because they will have multiplied 100 times the happiness they lacked on earth. For after labor comes repose. So after a storm always came the tranquility and that pass. The same way that nature shows us every day that happens in our life. Okay, so once we understand that this will pass and all the torments I'm having depends on how I face them, how I see them, that will directly impact on my future life. So if I get closer to that happiness, I need to incorporate that concept. So again, I come with the same question. Does happiness exist? So this is the question that I want you guys to go home and reflect and see your life and see the people surround you and really deeply go through your choices, how you are facing your challenges, your attitude, because this will help yourself and for sure will help everybody around you. Because our attitude also inspires people. You don't need to say much. Our actions is the most thing that inspired everyone around us. And I mentioned this documentary here just to finalize today in previous lecture. It's a documentary called Happy. that, if I'm not wrong, you can access it in a Prime Video, I think. Just Google it and probably you guys see where it's not on Netflix. That is more popular streamer, right? But if I'm not wrong, it's on Prime. It's called Happy. So basically, it goes over several people from all over the world that discuss this topic about happiness. It's an incredible documentary. It's not spiritist, but brings many of the concepts that we just discussed that the spiritists bring to us. So basically, they also showed some research that mentioned that's based on the multiple research that were done around this topic. They realized that the fluctuation in our happiness level is about 50% related to our genes, 10% related to the circumstances, like either facing a difficult moment in your life. It was only 10% based on the research that directly impact your happiness. And 40% was related to intentional activity. What I mean, like what you do, how you face it, your attitude, your thoughts, and how you understand it. That's exactly what Spiritism is trying to show us. Because no matter how difficult we are, what challenge you are facing, your attitude and the way you understand it will help you either go up or down, right? And it also shows in the documentary that the joy or disappointment are emotions that usually does not last long. They are temporarily because they are connected to events in our life. Those will pass. So there's no situation in our life that will pretty much make you happy or sad forever. Everything is like the life is a cycle, right? Every day a new day. The seasons change. The same happen with us. At moment you are up, there are moments you're going to be down, and that will continue. That also mentioned the scientific perspective, showing the dopamine as one of the brain chemicals that is also proven, scientifically proven, to connect us more to that happiness feeling. So how we increase the dopamine in our body? By exercise, by walking around, by being physically active. That is important. And that's something that we need to care of too. We need to care of our body, we need to care of our mental health. That combination will make us get closer to that joy of happiness, right? And again, the same concept that they show in the documentary, that the Americans have multiplied by 2 their income in the last 50 years, but the happiness level did not go in the same proportion. So they're pretty much the same. So richer you get does not mean that you're going to get more happy, right? So basically, it goes over to summarize that people who practice meditation also based on kindness and compassion. There are different exercises of meditation. This science has showed the impact that it causes to help you feel that happiness, and that makes lots of sense. Because when we are meditating, we go over all the ideas that I tried to discuss here. Like you go and you try to see the life in a different way. It will help you to have, like, open your view, like stop seeing the things like so strict and see a broader meaning of life, a broader purpose of life. And that's what will connect you better to another level, connect you better, like closer to God. And obviously that will help you to achieve the happiness that you can in this life. So basically, that's the idea. I recommend this documentary to everybody. And I hope I could bring some, my idea is mainly to bring some insights for everybody. Do your homework once you live here. There are many books that, from Spiritism that help us to go through that reflection. And I hope you can find the happiness that we are all looking for, at least the one that we can in this life. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. Thanks for a great lecture. It's really good. So it seems that it does happen, just need to find it inside of ourselves, right? It's almost like a choice. We can, that's why I see two people going through the same situation, and one gets
Yeah.
over it and go forward, and some of people just get depressed with the situation and just keeps it stuck in there. So it's all choice.
And the point you mentioned also, it's important because that's another thing that I want to bring today as well, that the happiness needs to be inside you. The happiness is not in a place, is not in a person, because some people are gonna only get happy if I marry, marry someone, or if I move to that country. That like, if you keep searching for happiness like that, you always gonna be ungrateful and sad because you're gonna get there and you're not find happiness, right? And that's gonna let you down again. And then say, no, I need to go there, I need to get that position. And you get there because what's the problem? The happiness is not inside you. The happiness needs to be inside you. It's not in a place, it's not in any material thing, it's inside your heart. And that only comes when you understand the laws of God and kind of have that inside you too.
And I think it comes with the self-love then, right?
Exactly.
As I just said, love the others as you love yourself. And you love yourself, and then you find that happiness inside yourself. So then you have with yourself, wherever we are, with our shadows, with our goodness, but we have with who we are. Right? And just adding a little bit to the research that you brought from the documentary. Years ago, I saw another research that shows that people who have any kind of a religion or spiritual belief is also percentages happier than people who have no religion or like no concepts of religion or spirituality or anything. So basically people are 100%
right?
materialistic, right? And it doesn't even talk about specific religions, just if you have any kind of religion, any kind of a sense of connection, which we know is the connection with the roots, right? You actually, percentage-wise, you're happier with your life, no matter what's going on with your life, right? That's another pretty good research, and it makes total sense, yeah? Because when we 100% materialistic, then you disconnect from your roots, which is God. And like any plant, if you disconnect from the roots, it doesn't last long. It don't last long, exactly, that's true. Do you have any comments on the internet or questions? No, any comments or questions here?
Yeah. Yes, I have been all the time trying to look for happiness, and I have, thank you so much for your lecture, and yeah, for me, what I have learned is that happiness is an inside job. You know, you transform your thoughts when something comes that is, you think, no, why I am feeling like this, you know? And so acceptance, it's a big thing because I had a hard time to accept certain things.
All of us.
And, you know, people like you saying, oh, Canada, it's a beautiful country, it's a rich country. I never loved this. I'm here, you know, immigrated, and I cannot say that I didn't accomplish, but I find that, you know, the isolation sometimes that we are, you know, we face, and our neighbors that don't say much hi. I never understood that, but now I accept. You know, I'm not going to change the society. I'm not going to change the things that are here. And I feel much happier to accept things, you know, the way that the things are. And so it's like inside every day.
And the acceptance that you are mentioning, it only comes when we get an understanding about seeing ourselves as an immortal being and seeing that life, like this part here, is just a very tiny page in the whole big book of our journey, right? So, because if you don't see that, it's very hard to accept any difficult circumstance that we have in life. Because the only consolation that we have is understanding that tomorrow is a new day. I can rewrite, I can restart, I can forgive, I can do it different. I will have that chance again. Otherwise, it means impossible to accept. If you see our lives materialistic, if you don't have any connection with the spiritual realm, or like if you don't have any like any religion, as Teresa was saying, how come you're gonna accept the difficulty and the challenges if you think that the life is just this? It's impossible, right? So that's why, and it's changed completely when you start to accept, but we all struggle with that. Like, I'm doing this lecture here, but don't think that I'm able to do everything that I say here. It's easy to say, right? But definitely helped me to go through that in my life too, in every day. Because I question, I have moments that I question God, why does this happen? What, like, and we all do. So you need, and that's when you need also to forgive ourselves, to have to understand that, yes, I'm still learning. So let's learn together, and let's like use every moment to reflect. I think the most important thing today is to leave this house reflecting on our lives, on our choices, and how we see things every day. That is what's going to help us to have that acceptance and understanding.
Yeah, and to your point on point 10, I think this acceptance, which is the resignation,
Yeah.
is because it's much easier to look on the negative points. And and a lot of times we are stuck on the negative points and forget to look at the good things. And no matter how hard the situation that you're going through, there's a lot of good things happening around. But if you disconnect from them and disconnect from the negative, then it's very easy for us to go down and really don't feel happy or anything.
Yeah.
And then it gets on your gratitude point that you brought it to say, yeah, this whole thing here is happening that's negative, but look, I'm grateful for this, what's happening. And to your point when you said your process, right, then when you start to look to the other and say, oh, wait a second, I have the financial means to give what my son needs right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have the way to give him support and everything. So start to look a little bit on the positive side and disconnect just from the negative. And I think that's why a lot of times it's hard for us to find the resignation because we look at the negative point where, oh, my neighbor doesn't say hi to me or anything. But there's also the fantastic points. And I know I'm an immigrant as well, most of us here are, so or all of us. And it is hard. We left our families behind. I came alone, so I left literally my family behind, I think like you. So yes, but then there's so many great things that this country gave to us, and be grateful from being here. There's a lot of things that I accomplished because I'm here in Canada that if I was back home, I wouldn't be able to accomplish. So that's what it is. If you look more, start to look more to the inside, like you did, which is fantastic, but also look at the positive sides of any situation during life. Because I can say for sure, there's not a single moment of my life that's hard, and probably you can say the same, and we all can say the same, is that there's no helping there. Yeah, it was hard, it was tough, but whatever was needed, not what I wanted, because it's different, or whatever was needed was brought in there, and the help came, and things came through, and we're all here. And we all look back, there's so many difficult moments that we had through, and we all survived, and we're all here. And the reason we survived is because the saving boat in some point passed by and helped us to go through, right? And also because we put our efforts in there. And if you connect to the positive, it's easier to look inside and find that happiness, right? And the gratitude that comes with gratitude, like you brought to us. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Joyce.
Welcome.
Great. And I'd just like to say thank you to all of you that are with us over the internet. Hoping to see you back here next week.